Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie, Esther here, and Happy New Year to all of you out there in the Dead by Daylight community. We got some big news today. The big news is that Dwelf has been fired. Well, that's not the biggest news, but it is news. We'd like to apologize for the recent string of tweets posted by Dwelf. He has been stripped of his powers, effective immediately. Thank you for understanding. But no, the actual big news today is about the developer update. Dead by Daylight put out this tweet. Is your resolution to read more? If so, we got you. The first dev update of the year is here. And when you click that, it takes you to the Dead by Daylight forums. I have not read this myself. I do see right here, right now, that it says part 1, though. So, let's get right into it. We're going to read this together. I don't know anything about it. Developer update, January 2022, part 1. Happy New Year! We're back after a quick break and jumping right back into things with another developer update. Like last time, there's too much to go through in one sitting. Wow. So check back tomorrow for part 2. Most of this will appear in the upcoming mid-chapter, but we wanted to be a little bit more transparent with what we're working on for the future. For the sake of clarity, we've marked anything that's for a later update with quote-unquote future. Okay. So future, this is part of not the mid-chapter update, I guess. Future patch optimization plans. Depending on where you play, it can either take a while to install a patch or patch sizes can be unusually large. Needless to say, this isn't ideal. And when new content releases, who wants to wait around for it? Not me. That's why we're working on improving the update process going forward. First of all, why does it take so long? Well, to keep it simple, the game is split up into small chunks. This way, when the game updates, you only need to download the chunks that changed rather than the whole game. The trouble is, as the game has grown over the years, so have these chunks, which make downloads and or patch times, depending on which platform you're on, longer. So, what are we going to do about it? In the short term, for Steam only due to technical reasons, we'll be compressing the files more, starting with this mid-chapter. This will make patch times as much as 50% faster and decrease the amount of disk space required by about 18 gig. All right. Next, we'll be restructuring these chunks in a future update. This will affect all platforms and make patch times up to 200% faster. Okay. Important note, in both cases, these improvements will require you to completely re-download the game. This means there will be a very large download when updating or opting into or out of the PTB. But don't worry, this is normal. Afterwards, updates will go back to being much smaller. Okay. Future, another future thing here. Matchmaking optimization plans. All right, so this is something a lot of people are very passionate about, the MMR stuff. So let's see, what does this say? We're a few months into our skill-based matchmaking system, and we'd like to shed some light on what we've been working on and the improvements we'll be making going forward. Right. Though it may be polarizing, yeah, we want to be as transparent as possible when it comes to SBMM, as the discussions that stem from it are incredibly valuable to us as we continue to work on improvements. The game and the community are constantly changing, and the matchmaking system should always be adapted to support them. This is why we're constantly making changes behind the scenes. One recent example came from an influx of new players. We noticed that the default rating was placing first-time players against some fairly experienced opponents. So to remedy this, we lowered the default rating for new players so they would be more likely to play amongst each other. We're regularly making changes like this behind the scenes to find the best balance of fast queues and quality matches. Beyond small tweaks, we've identified some areas where the system could be improved, and let's run through them quickly. This is interesting. I actually read a series of posts by a dev on the forums who was pretty open and transparent about matchmaking and stuff that they wanted to change, and they wanted to be clear with the community that this wasn't set in stone, that it was going to be things that were going to be changed along the way. And so this looks like this is getting into all that stuff. I wanted to make a video about things the dev said, but probably that's going to be addressed here, I would imagine. Let's see. Backfill improvements. If someone leaves a lobby, the matchmaker needs to find a replacement, aka a backfill. Right now, it heavily favors a quick replacement over a quality one. This can lead to some matches where one or more players are outside of their normal skill range. We're going to work towards finding a good balance between quality and wait times. I see. So if all four of us are in a lobby and we're all very high ranked on MMR, and then one person leaves and they're like, oh, well, now we got to replace this lobby, and they just throw somebody in there who is just out of their depth. That's the situation that they're trying to fix. Disconnection handling. Currently, the skill-based matchmaking system doesn't handle disconnects as well as it could. And we're looking into making some adjustments to handle them better and make sure that disconnects are treated fairly when altering someone's rating. Extended breaks. This is something I've seen people say that they were wondering about. When someone takes an extended break from the game, their rating does not change. And this isn't ideal since you're bound to be a little rusty after not having played for a while, and returning to difficult matches is a recipe for a frustrating night. And we're hoping to introduce a mechanic that adjusts your ratings when you've been gone for a while to ease you back in when you return. So this sounds like they're going to do a decay system where your matchmaking rating will go down the longer your break is between times when you pick up the game. A natural decay. Okay. General improvements. This is probably the stuff that the dev was talking about on the forums. This one is a little more technical. The game will detect which server you have the best connection to and match you with other players who are close to that server. This works well enough, but if you're right between two servers, you'll only be matched with one set of players. For players who have good connections to more than one server, we'd like to open up matchmaking and allow them to find matches with either set of players. This can help balance out queue times at off-peak hours and even improve the quality of matches made. No, that isn't what I thought was going to be at all. But that's interesting. The other night, I was playing with my friend Penzi, and he said, can we go to EU servers because the matches are instant? Because we were waiting like 10 minutes on North American servers for a match. And I said, okay, I don't care. I'll deal with the ping. Let's go. And we got games like 10, 15 seconds. Game. It was amazing. As a note, these changes will take a while to develop, but we're confident that these will make notable improvements on the matchmaking system. Okay. Let's, more future. More future. We're going into the future. So maybe tomorrow, part 2 is going to be present stuff. Let's see. Future, the solo survivor experience. If you're reading this, you've been left on the hook at some point. Okay, maybe not, but the chances are very high. Thanks to skill-based matchmaking ratings, we're able to see the impact playing with a pre-made group has on the outcome of a match at various skill levels. That's interesting. The data confirms our suspicions. As skill goes up, so does the gap in survival rates between solo survivors and pre-made groups. Well, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, really. In the top end of the skill levels, the difference in escape rates can be as much as 15%. This isn't great. The difference between solo survivors and groups makes it difficult to find a perfect balance. If we balance killers around pre-made groups, then solo survivors get left behind. Agreed. Meanwhile, if we balance around solo survivors, killer will have a rough time against groups. Agreed. So what are we going to do? With that in mind, we're working on some measures to bridge the gap between solo survivors and pre-made groups, which allow us to better balance killers as a result. We're aiming to strike a balance between making the solo players feel like they're part of the team without being overbearing. For example, we want to share key pieces of information like what are my teammates doing, but not too much info like showing everyone's exact location. To put it simply, the idea is to bring solo survivors up to the same level and not give people excessive information that makes even pre-made groups stronger. This is fascinating. How is this going to work? I mean, there had always been a discussion about making kindred base so you could like see people all the time like that, but let's see. We want to share a very early peek at one potential way of closing this gap. But before we do, we want to stress that this is in the very early stages and we're curious to hear what you think, but please keep in mind that it may change or it may even be scrapped entirely. One feature we're experimenting with is a status icon next to each survivor's portrait in the HUD that lets you know what they're doing. This way, solo survivors can base their decisions around what their teammates are doing and partial groups get a better idea of what their solo teammates are contributing, making everyone feel like more of a team. This is very interesting. This is something that can already easily be conveyed with a quick call out over voice chat, but is currently not available to solo survivors. Agreed with that. Once again, this is a very early preview, so early that we're still discussing this internally. Feel free to share your thoughts, but please keep in mind that none of this is final or confirmed. Depending on how things go, this feature may be changed or scrapped entirely. yeah, we heard you on that part before it even sees the light of day. We wanted to be open about this and keep you in the loop. The gap between the gap between solo survivors and groups is not going under our radar, and it's something that we're actively working on. Yeah, it's difficult when you're on solo and you're not on comms. Like, I just usually have to play with a gut feel and say, oh, well, I don't know if they're saving. If one person I can see is maybe being chased because I see that they're being injured, or the entity claws are moving around them, so I know they're in chase. But I'm wondering what that third survivor is doing when the first survivor's on the hook, right? So I'm like, well, do I go save? Are they saving? And you're in this quandary. A lot of times I'll leave my gen, what I'm doing, to run almost all the way there, only to find out that, yeah, they were saving. So yeah, those are those moments where stuff isn't getting done because of these questions. So I've always been in favor of shoring up the solo survivor experience. I know that y'all see me play and Survive with Friends all the time, so you can be like, he doesn't care about this, but I genuinely do care about the other people in the community. I'm not so egocentric that all I care about is me. So yeah, I think I would like to see this. I know that killers are probably going to be like, well, great, we're just making the game even easier for survivors. But hey, you know, if this works out, that it does make the solo experience better for survivors and they can play more cohesively as a team, then those are the kind of things that maybe will allow the dev team to feel more comfortable in making killers stronger, right? So, because if you make killers stronger and then you still have solo survivors lagging behind, then that's just a recipe for disaster. The solo survivor experience is going to be even more awful. So shoring up communication on the team first allows you to look at strengthening killers, in my opinion anyway. All right, here we go. The new betas tab. Sometimes we think up some experimental features that we'd love some feedback and data on, but they aren't quite ready to release into the wild just yet. Enter the betas tab. Next time you head to the settings menu, you'll see a new betas tab. And this doesn't say futures on it. Here, you'll find betas for upcoming features that you can opt in or out of as you please. Want to share your thoughts on something early on? Awesome, opt in. The icing on the cake is you'll be rewarded with extra blood points for the first bunch of matches that you play with a beta activated. Unlike the player test build, these betas are also available on console. Hey, everyone's invited. That's good news. Consoles are too often, well, always, left out of PTB. So this is good news that they can participate in testing. So the only question is, what's the first beta going to be? How about the wiggle update? Earlier this year, we changed struggling from a button mashing to skill checks, making it much more accessible and a lot easier on your buttons and keys. And we've been working on a similar update to wiggling as well, and we're finally ready to share it with you. Instead of mashing buttons, you'll see a skill check while being carried. Only this one has 2 zones and doesn't go away when you hit it. Instead, hitting the skill check successfully will cause it to switch directions and gradually fill your wiggle meter. Interesting. Keep hitting those skill checks to keep wiggling. This interaction keeps wiggling interactive while requiring far fewer inputs and is much easier on your joysticks, making it more accessible to players with repetitive strain injuries. Nice! Additionally, each side of the skill check can optionally be bound to a different button to further increase the gap between repeated button presses. This update will first appear in the betas tab, allowing you to opt in as you please. Yes, please. I don't like the A and D. I would much rather hit skill checks. So I wonder if this is going to be like, if anybody played the the search for, was it the yellow glyph? And you got the yellow glyph and you had to hit those rapid succession skill checks to claim your glyph. Wonder if they were like training us or testing us an experimental version of what this wiggle is. Huh. I'm very interested to see how this works in game. I'll bet you that's what the yellow glyph training was all about. Okay, toggle interactions. What is this? On the topic of accessibility, another feature that will be debuting with this update is a toggle mode for interactions. This new option, which can be enabled in the settings, makes holding a button for long periods of time a thing of the past. Simply press the start button. Simply press the button to start the interaction and press it again to stop it. To go with it, you'll find a new option to cancel interactions by sprinting. Enabling this will automatically cancel actions and cause you to start running whenever you sprint. Our goals with these new settings are to make Dead by Daylight more accessible and to provide an alternative for players that don't wish to hold a button for the entire length of an interaction. Plus, this frees up a hand so you can take a drink while hitting skill checks. We still predict that when you're taking a drink and give you a skill check, though, that's our favorite feature. Yeah. So when you have to itch your nose and you're going to get a skill check. If you made it this far, you've earned yourself a break from reading. Check back tomorrow for part 2. But before you go, we have one last bit of news for today. The player test build opens Wednesday, January the 5th, and we'll see you there. Okay, now the player test build. How's this going to work now? So player test build will be Steam only. So that'll have the betas tab in it, but you won't be able to test it on other platforms because you won't have a PTB. Is that right? All right, let's see. Interesting. So what are you excited the most? I do like these accessibility options here. So this means I don't have to hold M1 on the gen. I can just like start to touch the gen and do whatever. That's interesting. What do you like the most out of this stuff? Let me know. Do you play a lot of solo survivor? Solo player experience? Is that the kind of thing you're looking forward to? New wiggling? Well, that was a pretty beefy update. I could see why we're into part 2 tomorrow. We're over 17 minutes on this. I know I did a lot of blah, 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 my own in between. So one thing that they have not mentioned is addressing hackers. I don't know if that's something that they're going to do publicly, but I do believe that they have to be working behind the scenes on combating hacking at some level, because the barbarians are at the gate and, you know, harassing the citizens trying to get into the castle. So it's time to pour the oil over the wall and get rid of these barbarians who are hacking into the game and ruining the experience for players. Because of the reason why I say that they have to be working on something is because it has to be affecting business at some level, right? So as the number of hackers increase, it's going to affect more business. They have to address it. So I honestly believe that they are working on something, but I'm sure they don't want to tip their hand and let the hackers know. And hopefully it's going to be sooner rather than later. Somebody invited me to a Discord the other day where they showed me clip after clip after clip of people who are doing hacks, and it just blew my mind to see that the hacking problem was maybe more prevalent than I believed. And even some of that would be things that I consider extreme stretch resolution, where you can see like to the moon. You could see so far over every obstacle that there's no skill involved. Me personally, I don't know why you would want to hack, because if I win, I want to win legitimately. Like, it just makes it so hollow if you're cheating, but that's how I feel about it. But I do think that the devs are working on something behind the scenes as far as the hacking problem, and whether they're going to let us know about it or not, who knows. But I do think the community would like to hear from the devs to say so, if they are in some manner, like that they acknowledge that this is going on and that it's important to them. But we'll see what happens on that front. Anyway, we're about 20 minutes now, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you so very much for watching. Part 2 tomorrow. We'll see what goes on. Thanks for watching. Take care of each other in and out of the fog. Again, Happy New Year to you all. Wishing you all the best in 2022. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
It's a Gen Rush life for us. It's a Gen Rush life for us. Set a hiding, we do gens. Set a randoms, we got friends. It's a Gen Rush life.
Too many $400 lockers.